They thought he wouldn't notice, that he was too busy with permits, blueprints, finishes, and rescuing someone else's memories. That while he poured hundreds of thousands into the restoration, they could quietly draw up plans where his name didn't even appear. But this house isn't just a project. Every inch holds more than family history. It holds evidence. Hypocrisy hides behind concern, betrayal behind a glass of champagne, and love may have moved across town long ago. He says nothing. He watches. He waits. Because real decisions aren't made in the heat of emotion. They're made when everything is measured to the millimeter, when every signature is a snare and every opponent's move is already accounted for. And in the moment, they think the game is theirs. Something will begin that no one saw coming. In this house, everything is beautiful, even revenge. Greetings, my dear friend. I am very happy that you are watching my video, and I will be even happier if you subscribe to my channel. This will make me even happier. Let's get started. Soft autumn light angled through the dusty glass of the old Victorian windows, casting long, slender shadows across the worn wooden planks of the Ashton family home. Jasper Finnegan stood at the center of the living room, his experienced developer's eye scanning every imperfection, the sagging trim, the tired fixtures, the faded elegance of a place once full of life. At 44, Jasper had breathed new energy into dozens of tired properties, rescuing them from the brink of ruin. But this house was different. This one was personal. His wife, Juliet Ashton, let her fingertips drift along a stretch of faded wallpaper, a quiet melancholy flickering in her expression like a distant memory waiting to resurface. "Do you remember last Christmas, Jasper? Before Dad's diagnosis?" she murmured, glancing briefly at her phone before tucking it away. Back then it still felt like home. Jasper offered a silent nod, already shifting mentally to the laundry list of issues he'd begun to compile. The foundation was compromised, and the wiring looked like it hadn't seen an update since the 70s. As he walked the room, he tapped brisk notes into his tablet. The hospital bills. Juliet's voice trembled with practiced restraint. They wiped out everything they saved. The surgery, the complications, the recovery. She gestured toward the peeling ceiling, where brown water stains told a story of neglect. At that moment, her father, Calvin Ashton, shuffled in slowly, leaning heavily on his cane. Once energetic at 72, illness had hollowed him out. "Jasper, my boy," he began, hesitation in his voice. "I don't like asking, but Juliet thought maybe—" Jasper cut in gently, his tone even and assured, the same voice that had built Finnegan Development into a powerhouse. "This house has too many memories to let it fall apart." Moments later, Fiona Ashton appeared, Juliet's mother, balancing a tray of coffee with trembling hands. "We can't let you—" she began, but Jasper was already scrolling through contacts. "This isn't charity," he said firmly. "The market's moving. Investing in this house is just smart." He noticed the subtle exchange of glances between Fiona and Juliet, a fleeting look, followed by a small nod. Before long, Randolph Ramsey showed up, Jasper's trusted project manager for over a decade. A solid presence with a no-nonsense demeanor, he walked the property's perimeter beside Jasper, his face hardening with every step. "Ballpark it for me," Jasper asked. "Best case, 200 grand, and that's being hopeful," Randolph replied. Jasper didn't blink. He continued noting figures on his tablet. "Pull your best team, keep it period accurate wherever possible. I want a full structural assessment by mid-week." Randolph lowered his voice slightly. "This won't be fast. 4 to 6 months minimum." Jasper caught a glimpse of Juliet through the window, standing in the backyard overgrown with ivy, her phone pressed to her ear, a rare smile curving her lips. "Whatever it takes, Randy," Jasper said quietly. "We do this the right way." Later that night, as he combed through floor plans in his office, his sister Melissa called. "Big-hearted brother or just another high-stakes gig?" she teased. "It's about doing what's right," Jasper replied, eyes scanning a spreadsheet of rising costs. "Calvin and Fiona deserve better than to lose their home over hospital bills, and this place, it means something to Juliet." There was a short silence. Melissa's voice grew softer. "She's been spending a lot of time at the club lately," she said. "Always in that private dining room." Jasper brushed it off. "She's just dealing with a lot," he said, though her words lingered. "Want to grab dinner Sunday?" Once the call ended, he moved to the window, the city skyline glittering beyond, a skyline he'd helped shape. He had built Finnegan Development from the ground up, transforming crumbling shells into coveted real estate. This house would be no different. He just had to stay the course. In the bedroom, Juliet was already asleep, her phone clutched loosely in her hand. He took it gently and placed it on the charger. He didn't see how quickly she locked the screen as he entered. The renovation launched like a military operation. Jasper personally selected every subcontractor, specialists in historical restoration. By the end of the first month, the home was stripped bare, revealing both hidden flaws and long-lost charm. "These floors," Jasper told Calvin one morning, pointing to a newly uncovered stretch of oak, "they're exceptional. We can restore them completely." Calvin nodded slowly, but his eyes drifted to the rising stack of bills on the kitchen counter. "Jasper, this is getting expensive. I don't have the means to—" Jasper raised a hand. "I've got it covered. It's not through the business. This is me, personally. Think of it as an investment in our family's future." What he didn't mention were the hours spent structuring quiet deals with his lawyer or the financial juggling behind the scenes. As Calvin stepped out, Randolph stepped in with a grim look. "We've got another problem. Termites. East wing's infested. We'll have to replace most of the framework." "Do it," Jasper replied instantly. "Call Miller's. They still have reclaimed oak in stock?" "They do, but it's premium grade," Randolph warned. "We're already at $25,000 and climbing." Jasper didn't hesitate. "Then we climb with it," he said. "This house will be everything it was meant to be, no matter what it takes." Renovation efforts gained momentum quickly. Jasper found himself spending long hours on site, overseeing every detail with relentless precision. It didn't escape his notice that Juliet was showing up more often, at strange hours, usually when he wasn't expected to be around. One evening, arriving unexpectedly, Jasper heard voices wafting from the garden, a soft, unmistakable laugh, Juliet's, followed by a man's deeper voice he didn't recognize. He made his way quietly to the back of the house. By the time he stepped outside, she stood alone, fingers tapping rapidly on her phone. "Just messaging Mom about those new light fixtures," she said, not looking up. The next day, Jasper's phone buzzed with a message from his sister. "Lunch tomorrow? Need to talk." They met at their regular spot, a quaint downtown bistro. Melissa waited until their drinks arrived before speaking. "I saw Juliet yesterday," she said, keeping her voice even. "At the club." Jasper barely glanced up, still flipping through legal files on his tablet. "She wasn't alone," Melissa continued, her calm, deliberate. "She was with a guy. Mid-30s, maybe. Good-looking. Seemed familiar. She called him Damon." Jasper's hand paused mid-air, hovering above the screen. His tone didn't shift. "Did you catch a last name?" "No, but he's in real estate. One of those upscale types, sharp suits, flashy listings, the kind who markets luxury dreams to people with more money than judgment." Jasper nodded, returning to his documents. "Appreciate the heads up. How's Kevin's soccer team doing?" The conversation drifted to less serious topics, but later that night, Jasper quietly made some calls. Before midnight, he had the name, Damon Langford. a prominent figure at elite properties, known for his Polish, persuasive charm and magnetic pull on high-end clientele. Work on the house continued at full tilt. Jasper signed off on a new security system, officially, to protect the wave of expensive materials arriving daily. It came with remote access, which he rarely used. Updates came instead from Randolph, the property's long-serving caretaker. "Miss Finnegan stopped in last night," Randolph mentioned casually one morning. "Brought a man with her, said they were reviewing changes you'd approved." Jasper kept his face unreadable. "What kind of changes?" "She's talking about converting the den into a home office, high-end finishes, built-in cabinetry, serious tech." Randolph shifted, uneasy. She seemed sure about the plans. Jasper scribbled a note. "Let me know if any other design reviews happen." The renovation was transforming the home. Each day brought visible upgrades, restored woodwork, artisan lighting, and hand-laid Italian tiles. Jasper's relentless attention to detail impressed the crew and alarmed his financial team. "It's more than just a remodel," Jasper told Corey Marr, his attorney and college buddy, over coffee. "This is about longevity, legacy." Corey raised an eyebrow. "You still committed to that ownership setup we discussed?" Jasper's smile was razor-sharp. "Without question. I believe in family, but I believe in protecting what's mine even more." As the build neared completion, the warning signs multiplied. Like the debris cleared daily, suspicious details piled up. Whispered garden conversations. A sleek black Mercedes parked down the street during Jasper's appointments. Fiona, the housekeeper, trying to mask her discomfort behind forced cheer and baked goods. Melissa, sharp-eyed as ever, became Jasper's unofficial informant. "They're getting careless," she said over lunch. "Damon's at the club all the time now. Last night they had dinner in the main dining room, front and center." Jasper cut neatly into his salmon. "What else do you know about him?" "Exactly what you'd expect," she said, voice cool. "Smooth, designer everything, flashy car worth more than my mortgage. 3 ex-wives, walked away with a chunk of assets every time. He's a predator in a tailored suit." Jasper's eyes narrowed. "And he shows up right when the house is almost done. How convenient." Indeed, the home was regaining its former glory. Fresh coats of paint gleamed under the sun. The gardens had been revived by expert hands. The interiors were fast becoming a showroom of fine craftsmanship. The escalating costs hadn't gone unnoticed. "Hope you've budgeted for all this," Randolph said one afternoon as another truck unloaded custom furnishings. "This isn't what you originally planned to spend." Jasper stood in what would soon be the master suite, watching the progress. "Tell me about their visits, the ones you think I don't know about." Randolph hesitated, then nodded. "Usually after 7, once the crew's gone." "They use this room?" "Mostly. They talk furniture layouts. He's got a lot of opinions. Keeps calling it his vision." "His vision," Jasper repeated, almost smiling. "Anything else?" Randolph looked uncomfortable. "They've been taking measurements for custom closets, 2 of them, his and hers." That night, Jasper sat alone in his office long after dark. He opened a private app on his phone, one that accessed hidden surveillance cameras no one else knew existed. Then he began to watch. From the shadowed hallway, Jasper observed in silence as Juliet and Damon wandered casually through the house. Their body language was too intimate, too familiar. Damon's hand lingered possessively at the curve of Juliet's lower back, while she leaned closer to him, laughing softly at something he had whispered. On the surveillance feed, the pair now stood in the master bedroom, Damon gesturing as if the space already belonged to him. "This place is going to be amazing," Damon said, his voice captured clearly by the state-of-the-art audio system. "Once we're moved in, we'll really make it ours." "Jasper's completely in the dark," Juliet replied, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. He's so caught up in the renovations, trying to perfect every last detail. It's almost sweet. Damon glanced at her. And your parents? They okay with all of this? They understand, she said breezily. They know I need more than a guy who's obsessed with hardwood finishes and crown molding. Plus, they actually like your vision for the place. Jasper quietly closed the laptop, his expression unreadable. The next morning, he was on the phone with Corey. Remember the documents we discussed? Jasper asked. It's time to move forward. You're sure? Corey's voice was calm but cautious. No second thoughts, Jasper said, watching another delivery truck unload expensive materials onto the property. Family matters, but business is business. Construction continued uninterrupted, every piece meticulously tracked, every receipt filed. Jasper maintained his usual rhythm, never revealing that he was several steps ahead. He signed off on upgrades with enthusiasm, even as he covertly shifted assets and restructured ownership on paper. One afternoon, Fiona arrived with coffee, her hands trembling ever so slightly. Thank you, Jasper. Really. We appreciate this more than we can say. Jasper offered her a kind smile. Family sticks together, Fiona. I just want everything to be perfect. That evening, Jasper sat alone in his office, reviewing the final draft of the legal agreements Corey had drawn up. On a separate screen, video played of Juliet and Damon strolling hand in hand through the garden, blissfully unaware. Jasper didn't flinch as he signed the documents. Paperwork designed to dismantle the future they had so confidently imagined. The first act was nearly complete. The home had been transformed, more beautiful than even Jasper had envisioned. But beneath the polished floors and fresh drywall, another kind of structure had been quietly built, one of contracts, contingencies, and calculated leverage. He shut the laptop and prepared for sleep. A new chapter was about to begin, and Jasper was not the kind of man to gamble on chance. The next morning, sunlight spilled into Jasper Finnegan's modern downtown office. Across the desk, Corey Marr, his trusted attorney for over a decade, flipped through a thick stack of documents, the papers spread neatly across the surface. You've funneled nearly 500 grand into this renovation, Corey said, scanning the numbers. That's a serious amount to pour into a house you don't legally own. That's why we're having this conversation, Jasper said, offering a faint smile, his eyes sharp and focused. I need to protect what I've invested. I figured this wasn't just a contract review, Corey said, leaning back in his chair. So tell me, what's the actual plan? I want to formalize the funding, Jasper said, tapping a valuation report on his tablet. The market's hot. Once the remodel's done, the place will easily clear $1 million. I want documentation to reflect my stake. Corey's brows lifted slightly. So you're not just looking for a lien? No, Jasper said evenly. I want partial ownership, temporarily, until the money's paid back. They won't be thrilled about that, Corey warned. They don't have to be thrilled, Jasper replied, standing and gazing out the window. They just need to sign. I've put real money into their future. This just makes it official. Corey cracked his knuckles and opened his laptop. We'll have to be careful with the language. Make it sound routine. That's why I came to you, Jasper said, turning back. It needs to be bulletproof, but read like standard renovation terms. The next morning, Jasper made a stop at the house before visiting the temporary apartment where Calvin and Fiona were staying during the remodel, a living arrangement that had turned out to be beneficial for everyone involved. Jasper, Fiona greeted him warmly as she opened the door. What a lovely surprise. Juliet's out. She's at the club. That's fine, Jasper said, holding up his briefcase. I'm actually here to see you and Calvin. Just a bit of standard documentation for the renovation financing. The bank needs everything in writing. Calvin shuffled to the doorway, slower than he used to be. More forms? He asked with a sigh. Feels like a lot of paperwork for something that's supposed to be all in the family. Loan conditions? Jasper gave a sheepish grin and lifted his shoulders. They're pretty strict when it comes to personal loans this size. It's more of a technicality, just a formal way to document that I'm funding the renovation personally, not through the company. He unfolded a stack of documents on the small dining table, highlighting key signature spots with color-coded tabs. It's all standard legal language, just lays out how the money's being handled. Nothing unusual. Fiona leaned over to read, her brow furrowing as she examined the dense legal jargon. Shouldn't we have our lawyer take a look at this first? Only if that would make you feel better, Jasper said easily. Though it might delay things. The tile specialist from Italy is due next week, and they're nearly impossible to reschedule. Calvin dismissed the suggestion with a wave of his hand. Jasper's family. If he says it's routine, then it's routine. He picked up a pen. Jasper watched calmly, his demeanor relaxed, making friendly conversation about the renovation. You should have seen the original woodwork we uncovered in the library. Absolutely gorgeous. You're going to love the restoration. You've really given your heart to this place, Fiona said, her voice soft with admiration. It's nothing, really. Jasper collected the freshly signed papers, his expression warm. Family looks out for family. Later that night, in Corey's office, the attorney scanned the signed documents. They didn't even skim it, did they? Jasper arched a brow. Would you analyze every clause in a document marked standard from your trusted son-in-law? Corey continued reviewing the contract, his tone flat. This gives you full ownership until the renovation costs are repaid. If a specific event occurs, a divorce for instance, repayment becomes immediately due. Just protecting my investment, Jasper said evenly. Business is business, Corey replied. The envelope arrived the following Tuesday, delivered by hand to Jasper's office. He waited until lunchtime to open it, methodically laying out the contents. The private investigator had been thorough. One photo after another showed Juliet in various settings, lunching at the country club, intimate dinners in quiet restaurants, lingering afternoons at an upscale downtown apartment. The man with her in every image matched Melissa's description exactly. Attractive, polished, and slightly artificial. A copy of Damon Langford's real estate license photo was clipped to a thick dossier detailing his background. Jasper scanned it with cool detachment. 3 previous marriages, all involving messy property disputes, he murmured. Interesting. His phone buzzed. Randolph calling from the construction site. Boss, you'll want to see this. Jasper met him in what would become the master bedroom. Randolph pointed to a roll of blueprints spread across a marble-topped dresser. Found these earlier. Thought they might interest you. The drawings showed significant design changes, dual walk-in closets, a revamped bathroom layout, custom storage throughout. In neat handwriting along the margin were the words, "Perfect for our needs." There's more, Randolph added quietly. I've been reviewing the security footage like you asked. They've been here nearly every night this week, walking the site, discussing plans. He held up his phone and pressed play. The grainy night vision clip showed Juliet and Damon in the garden, standing close together. Damon's voice was clear. When the Reno's done, this place will be ours. Juliet let out a cold laugh. Jasper's doing all the hard work for us. He's always cared more about the house than people. So obsessed with his little masterpiece, she added. He doesn't even realize what's happening right in front of him. And your parents? They love you, she replied. They think Jasper's emotionally unavailable, too wrapped up in work. They'll be happy with whatever makes me happy. She leaned into Damon. After he's spent a fortune perfecting this place, they'll be thrilled to move in with us. Jasper watched the footage without blinking. Anything else? Randolph paused before answering. She's been contacting contractors in secret, collecting quotes for more changes. After, whatever they're plotting. Appreciate it, Randy. Jasper slipped the phone into his pocket. Let's keep this quiet. Back at his office, Jasper moved quickly. A few discreet calls later, he had Juliet's complete financial records. The pattern was obvious. For months, she'd been discreetly moving funds from their shared accounts into one under her name alone. The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Finnegan, your wife's here to see you." "Send her in." Juliet walked in looking picture-perfect, every detail of her outfit deliberate. "Sweetheart, I thought we could get lunch. You've been so buried in the renovation." "Have I?" Jasper motioned to a chair. "How's the country club? Still spending time with your tennis coach?" She laughed, tight and practiced. "I haven't picked up a racket in months. You know that." "Oh, must be thinking of someone else." His smile was cool. "Maybe your lunch date." "Damon, isn't it?" Her face drained of color in an instant. "You must mean Damon Langford, the luxury property guy with a knack for spotting rare investment opportunities?" Jasper's voice was casual, bordering on amused. 3 ex-wives, each one fighting tooth and nail over shared assets. "Quite the investigator, aren't you?" she snapped, her shock quickly giving way to fury. "You've been spying on me?" "I safeguard what belongs to me," Jasper replied coolly, setting a thick manila envelope down on the table between them. "Would you like to go over the surveillance images, the financial transfers, the footage from our security cameras?" One by one, he laid them out in front of her, each movement deliberate. "Or perhaps we should start with the contractors you hired without a word. And those architectural drafts, yours and Damon's little blueprints?" Juliet shot up from her seat, hands trembling not from fear, but seething anger. "You've got it all wrong," she hissed through clenched teeth. "We're restoring that house. We've got plans, a shared dream." Jasper gave a slight nod. "So I've heard." His calm only deepened the rage burning in her eyes. "My parents are behind this. They think you're emotionally distant, obsessed with your career." "And they're not wrong," he said without hesitation. "You've made the house and your business your entire identity." Tears welled up, right on cue. "Damon sees me. He appreciates what I bring." "I'm sure he does," Jasper answered as he methodically gathered the photos. "Especially now that you've been quietly rerouting funds from our joint account into your personal one. A touching sign of gratitude. I want a divorce." She lifted her chin defiantly as she said it. "How appropriate," Jasper said smoothly, "right as the final touch-ups are finished." Without another word, Juliet turned on her heel and left, the door slamming behind her. Jasper leaned back in his chair, picking up one final document, a printed email from Damon to his circle of brokers, bragging about moving into a fully renovated Victorian stunner. Funny. The idea for the party had been Jasper's in the first place. A proper send-off, he'd suggested. Juliet had lit up at the mention, her smugness barely contained. "Invite everyone," she'd said, and invite them they did. The house gleamed, polished hardwood floors, intricate chandeliers, hand-picked vintage wallpaper, and artisanal woodwork that transformed every room into something out of a high-end design magazine. The overgrown yard had been shaped into a lush garden, perfect for coffee table spreads and weekend real estate tours. The place buzzed with guests admiring every corner. Juliet's parents, Calvin and Fiona, floated through the rooms like visiting dignitaries, reveling in compliments aimed at their daughter's husband's taste and generosity. If they noticed Juliet's frequent anxious glances at her phone, they chose silence over confrontation. Damon showed up fashionably late, wrapped in a tailored suit and flashing the easy smile of a man who knew he belonged in rooms like this. He played the part of charming guest to perfection. Only Jasper caught the hunger in his gaze, measuring square footage, mentally cataloging future acquisitions. "You've done an incredible job," Damon said as he joined Jasper near the freshly restored hearth. "You really have an eye for profitable flips." "Speaking of business," Jasper replied, his tone smooth as glass. How's the niche market treating you? Still working the divorce angle? Damon's grin faltered for just a second. Not sure I follow. No? Jasper took a sip from his glass. Seems like a gold mine. Repositioning assets, leveraging legal gray areas, finding the perfect emotional leverage at just the right moment. Can't imagine a more lucrative field. Before Damon could answer, Juliet approached, flushed from champagne and adrenaline. Jasper, she said under her breath, firm but quiet. We need to talk. Privately. He followed her into the library, a room he'd painstakingly restored himself, every inch of oak trim and paneling hand-finished. She closed the doors behind them with deliberate care. This ends now, she said, her voice practiced and steady. Damon and I are together. We're moving in next week. Arms crossed, she stared him down. It would be best if you left. Today. Out the tall windows, Jasper could see her parents smiling on the lawn, unaware. Damon stood nearby, barely containing his smug grin. Jasper calmly set his glass on the end table. Perfect timing, then. What? Her brow furrowed in confusion. I listed the house for sale this morning. The words hit like thunder. You did what? She barked, the volume rising. Put it on the market. There's already strong interest. You can't just... Calvin barged in, red-faced and livid. This is our family's legacy. Jasper reached into his blazer and retrieved a folded contract. Actually, no. It's mine. Until the renovation expenses are repaid in full, and per the agreement, that repayment becomes due immediately if a divorce is initiated. What agreement? Fiona asked faintly. The renovation loan paperwork, Jasper said with a pleasant tone. The one you both signed 2 months ago. Remember? That thick stack of forms you never bothered to read? His smile didn't waver. Until every cent is paid back, the deed remains in my name. As of now, that's the legal status. Damon stepped forward, his trademark charm slipping like a mask removed. Wait, just a moment. Jasper didn't blink. His voice stayed measured and cool. The total is a little over $500,000. If you want to buy the house at fair market price, you're welcome to. Given the renovations and the market, it's worth just under $2 million. He let the words hang. This is our home now. Juliet's composed exterior cracked. You can't possibly... I can, Jasper said flatly, cutting her off, and I already did. Without sparing another glance, he turned and walked toward the door. He paused at the threshold, casting a final look back at the silent room and the stunned expressions. You've got 30 days to move out. He added, my attorney will follow up with the final terms and figures. Then stepped out into the night, leaving a wake of stunned silence. As he made his way to his car, raised voices burst from inside, ending in a sharp slam of the front door. Seconds later, tires shrieked as the Mercedes sped away. Jasper slid behind the wheel, catching a fleeting glimpse of Juliet at an upstairs window, her face carved with disbelief and rage. It was the portrait of entitlement denied. Jasper didn't look again. The damage was done. Now came the consequences. The morning after the disastrous housewarming, the once pristine Victorian was in disarray. Surveillance footage showed Juliet in a frantic frenzy, rearranging furniture as if reclaiming the space might erase the sale. Outside, Calvin paced furiously through the garden, yelling into his phone in a futile attempt to reach legal backup. On the porch swing, an exact replica Jasper had specially commissioned, Fiona sobbed quietly, the weight of reality setting in. Across town in his office, Jasper reviewed financial statements with his usual precision. Corey entered, arms loaded. Along with formal legal notices, he carried a thick dossier compiled by Jasper's private investigators. Looks like it wasn't just 3, Corey said, spreading photographs across the desk. 7 women total, mostly in California and Florida. Same pattern every time, he added. Wealthy women, whirlwind romances, real estate entanglements, and then he vanishes. Send the full report to Juliet, Jasper said, eyes still on the property files. Let her see the man she threw her loyalty behind. The intercom crackled. Mr. Finnegan? Mrs. Ashton's lawyer is on line 1. Also, Mr. Ramsey just arrived. Says it's urgent. Patch the lawyer through to Corey, Jasper replied. Send Ramsey in. Randolph entered, visibly uneasy. Sir, Langford showed up with a moving truck. Claimed some antique pieces were gifts from Juliet. Got physical when security stepped in. Police had to intervene. Jasper glanced at his phone. A video played. Damon, disheveled and enraged, shoving a guard before being wrestled to the ground. His designer suit ripped mid-scuffle, the image of his unraveling persona. File charges, Jasper said coldly. Theft, assault, trespassing. Make it official. Meanwhile, Corey handled the legal call, his voice clipped and professional. The contract's clear. Mr. Finnegan retains full ownership until the agreed sum is paid. Section 7, Clause 3 activates due to the divorce. It's all airtight. He listened, then said, No, emotional distress doesn't invalidate a contract, especially one she never bothered to read. Jasper turned back to Randolph. Change the locks, the codes, all points of access. I want a full inventory. Nothing leaves this property without my written sign-off. Already underway, Randolph replied, then hesitated. There's something else. Found this in the master bedroom. He handed Jasper a leather notebook. Inside, pages filled with Damon's handwriting revealed plans to convert the estate into luxury apartments, complete with sketches, budget outlines, and branding ideas targeting wealthy, recently single women. Near the back, a list of rival developers appeared. One name, Bernard Whitaker, was circled multiple times. He was setting up some elite recovery center, Randolph explained, a retreat for affluent divorcees. Already had investor meetings lined up. Jasper gave a dry, humorless smirk. Send copies to our Palm Beach contact, the widow he's courting now. She might appreciate a peek at his long-term vision. As the day wore on, the desperation deepened. Fiona showed up unannounced, trying to appeal to Jasper's sentiment. Her sorrow soon curdled into fury when he didn't budge. How can you be this cold? She demanded. After everything between us? Cold. Jasper looked up at last. You mean like silently backing your daughter while she undermined me? Or watching her lover walk all over the home I rebuilt for your family? That kind of cold, Fiona? Later that evening, the security system caught one final act of defiance. Damon returned, this time in a borrowed vehicle. He crept through the garden and met Juliet beneath the rose-covered trellis. It's over, he said quietly, the swagger gone. The house, the plan, us. Jasper's locked it all down. No bank will touch it now. You swore to me, Juliet said, her voice thick with emotion. Things change, Damon replied, flicking dust from the sleeve of his worn jacket. There's a golden opportunity down in Palm Beach. Oceanfront property. Owner just lost her husband. No complications, no fixer-upper, no jealous husbands involved. You're just going to walk away? Let's be honest, Juliet. Your brilliant little plan fell apart. Without another word, he turned and made his way toward the rented car. You probably should have read the contract before your father signed it. By the following morning, Jasper had Corey hand-deliver the official ultimatum. Buy the property at market value or vacate within 30 days. Calvin's reaction, caught on security footage, was telling. Anger giving way to stunned comprehension. They'd fallen neatly into the trap Jasper had laid. That afternoon, Melissa called from her usual perch at the country club. Word's getting around about Damon, she said. 3 different women have come forward with stories that match up. He's been running the same scam for years. The pattern was unmistakable. Target unhappy wives, manipulate property deals, vanish with the money. Spread those stories in Palm Beach, Jasper instructed. Whoever he's targeting next deserves fair warning. By week's end, Damon had vanished completely, leaving Juliet to face the fallout alone. Her betrayal had collapsed. No home, no partner, and no exit strategy. Exactly 30 days after the disastrous housewarming, the deal was finalized in the sleek, glass-walled boardroom of Jasper's firm. Bernard Whitaker arrived early, his usual sharpness softened by excitement. "Turning it into luxury condos is brilliant," he said, spreading out the glossy floor plans. 6 units, all over 3,000 square feet. "We'll keep the historic exterior intact, but inside? State-of-the-art. Private elevators, rooftop gardens, full smart home integration." "And the preservation board?" Jasper asked. "Completely on board," Bernard confirmed. "Your meticulous restoration work actually strengthened our case. All the signature elements are still there. We'll preserve the charm and add a modern edge." His enthusiasm was unmistakable. It's a perfect fusion. Classic elegance meets cutting-edge design. Then the boardroom doors slammed open. Juliet entered in a storm, trailed by a tired-looking lawyer. The past month had clearly worn her down. Her once polished appearance was disheveled, and exhaustion clung to her posture. "This is vindictive," she snapped, throwing a bundle of papers onto the table. "You're erasing my family's home out of spite." "Hardly," Jasper replied calmly. "I'm protecting the investment you and Damon tried to swindle from me." He gave a small, cutting smile. "How's Damon these days? Still enjoying the sea air?" Her expression crumpled. The news of Damon's hasty retreat from Palm Beach after being exposed had cut deep. "The sale price is 6 times the renovation cost," Bernard added, almost sympathetically. "It's a phenomenal return." "You can't do this to my parents," Juliet said, her voice edged with desperation. "They're devastated." "They made their choice," Jasper said as he signed the final documents. "They stood by you while you plotted to steal from me. Actions have consequences." "I'm their daughter," she said, her voice faltering, "and I was your wife. Didn't stop you from conspiring to take what was mine." Bernard cleared his throat. "Transfer of development rights happens today. Construction starts next week. The crew's already scheduled." Jasper's phone buzzed. A message from Randolph lit up the screen. "Langford sighted in Palm Beach. Widow's relatives hired PIs. Pattern confirmed. Police involved." "Your parents are settled at Palm Lake Retirement Community," Jasper told her. "Their things are in storage, prepaid through the end of the month. They have time to get comfortable." Her attorney made one last push. "As for the divorce settlement, excludes proceeds from this sale," Corey cut in smoothly. "Judge ruled this morning, evidence of premeditated fraud nullified all financial claims." The security team stood quietly by the entrance. As Juliet approached the doorway, she stopped for a final word. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice unsteady. "One day, you'll realize you destroyed something real." "The only thing that got destroyed," Jasper replied, "was your plan to deceive me. The rest? Just smart business." A year later, Jasper stood on the sidewalk, watching sunlight dance across the freshly restored Victorian facade of the Whitaker-Finnegan residences. Behind the preserved outer shell, 6 refined condos had transformed the once troubled property into one of the city's most sought-after addresses. Jasper hadn't anticipated just how extraordinary the results of his partnership with Bernard would be. Their strengths had meshed in a way that felt effortless. Jasper's eye for preserving timeless architectural detail, Bernard's instinct for sleek contemporary refinement, producing a blend that stood out in a saturated market. Every unit in the 6-home development sold out ahead of schedule, each fetching unprecedented prices for the neighborhood. A notification pinged on Jasper's phone. Melissa had texted, "Karma hasn't taken a day off. Damon's Benz got towed in front of his new office. He's out in the suburbs pushing starter homes now. lost his luxury license after the Palm Beach fiasco. Jasper couldn't suppress a smirk as he remembered how everything had unraveled after Damon's misconduct came to light. The widow's family had taken him to court, triggering a wave of similar complaints from other victims. The shiny image Damon had cultivated as an elite broker cracked wide open, leaving him relegated to selling cookie-cutter homes in a drab retail complex. Meanwhile, Jasper sat in a penthouse suite high above the city's most exclusive zip code, going over financials with Robbie Robertson. They'd connected during the final stages of the Victorian townhouse project, and her grounded, practical leadership had been a breath of fresh air after the chaos that had come with Juliet. Robbie spread out some new proposals across the table, projects born from the massive success of the Whitaker-Finnegan development. 3 new sites on the table, she said, tapping the paperwork. All heritage properties, perfect candidates for upscale restoration. You've made your mark. Classical integrity meets modern luxury. Jasper leaned back with a half smile. Any updates on the ghosts of our past? Robbie's grin was all edge. Juliet's in that cracked foundation walk-up on Mason Street. Remember it? You're kidding. Nope. She's doing grunt work at some discount agency. No premium firm wants her brand near theirs, not after everything that surfaced. And her family? Living quietly in Palm Lake. Fiona is volunteering at the rec center. Calvin's taken up golf. They've stopped trying to defend her. Looks like they finally accepted that not everything can be spun. Another buzz, this time from Bernard, pitching a fresh opportunity. Business was booming, and their collaboration showed no signs of slowing. Robbie was already leafing through new listings. Ready to jump into the next one? Jasper gave a thoughtful nod, calculations already forming in his mind. The past 12 months had been full of difficult but necessary lessons about trust, about blood ties, and about not skimming over the fine print. But perhaps the most significant lesson was this. Real triumph wasn't revenge, it was evolution. Another historic treasure awaited its transformation. Jasper had discovered that the most satisfying kind of payback wasn't angry or dramatic. It was strategic, it was bulletproof, and it came with a hefty return on investment. What was meant to sink him had, in the end, propelled him. As the meeting wrapped, Jasper glanced out the window, and there he was. Damon on the sidewalk below, showing an aging couple around a plain bungalow. The designer suits were gone. In their place was bland, off-the-rack business wear. He didn't even notice as Jasper's polished Mercedes glided past. Jasper didn't need vindication anymore. What had once been betrayal was now his drive, refined, calculated, and unstoppable. He had taken ownership of his story, and what lay ahead was nothing but light. Epilogue. 5 years later. Half a decade had passed since the Whitaker-Finnegan residences reshaped the city's historic district. The landmark project had sparked a trend, repurposing heritage properties into opulent dwellings, an idea that had reshaped entire neighborhoods. Jasper stood in his now sprawling executive suite, which spanned the full top floor of the city's most coveted skyscraper. From here, he had a panoramic view of several of his completed works, including the restored Victorian estate where his rise had truly begun. The building's dignified exterior remained a visual marvel, and the 6 lavish units inside had appreciated far beyond expectations. Updated market projections, Robbie said, stepping in with a tablet. Now his wife of 2 years, her on-the-ground savvy had been essential to scaling their empire. Her precision grounded his creativity in measurable outcomes. They're teaching Whitaker-Finnegan in MBA programs now, she added with a smile. The model's even got a name, Adaptive Historical Development. Jasper laughed softly. It was surreal thinking back to where they'd started just a few short years ago. Any news from the X-Files? Robbie grinned. Oh, yes. Melissa's been busy. Juliet's fall from grace had become a running tale among high-end circles. After losing her court battle to claim any part of the project, she'd attempted a comeback in luxury real estate, but her reputation trailed her like smoke. No firm of status would touch her. Now 47, she was clocking in as a junior agent at budget homes and properties, touring low-end apartments with nervous first-time buyers. The twist? Her office was inside one of the commercial strips Jasper's firm had recently snapped up for renovation. She even reached out to Bernard last month, Robbie said, raising an eyebrow. Tried to explain, maybe angle for a second chance. Jasper chuckled. What did he say? Didn't entertain it for a second. Damon Langford's story had taken a similarly poetic turn. When he abruptly vanished to Palm Beach, the carefully spun web of deception he'd maintained, swindling wealthy women through fraudulent real estate deals, finally collapsed. One widow's family, refusing to let the matter rest, not only pressed charges but also hired private investigators who unearthed his entire checkered history. He's peddling timeshares somewhere in Nevada now, Melissa had shared. Got his license revoked in 3 states. And Juliet wasn't number 8. Turns out there were at least a dozen before her. He even tried to sell his story, drafting a memoir filled with tales of manipulation and charm, but publishers wouldn't touch it. His sleek Mercedes, gone, replaced by a dented Hyundai. The tailored designer suits he once wore, like armor, had been auctioned off to cover his spiraling legal fees. Where he was once a smooth-talking predator prowling the world of high-end real estate, he'd become a cautionary tale. Calvin and Fiona had their own reckoning. They'd initially defended Juliet with stubborn conviction, but time and undeniable truths eroded their resolve. Their current home, a modest unit in Palm Lake retirement, stood in stark contrast to the grand estate they had once envisioned for their legacy. Fiona actually rang me last week, Melissa revealed over one of their usual lunch meetups. First time in years. She even said sorry. Watching Juliet come undone, it finally broke something inside her. She asked if you'd consider inviting them to the anniversary party next month. Jasper paused, thinking it over, before declining. Some bridges don't just burn, they disintegrate completely. The pain of betrayal had faded. But trust? That was another matter entirely, and the damage hadn't been confined to just their inner circle. Repercussions rippled through their broader network. Friends and acquaintances who once stood by Juliet and Damon were now dealing with the wreckage of their own reputations. The regulars at the country club who used to turn a blind eye during those discreet lunch meetings now found themselves excluded from big-ticket deals. Remember Thomas? Melissa asked. The guy who arranged all those quiet sit-downs for Damon? His firm dropped 3 major accounts once the truth came to light. These days, he's managing a mid-tier dining chain. In contrast, Jasper's collaboration with Bernard Whitaker had taken off in ways neither of them could have imagined. What began with a single Victorian renovation had blossomed into a string of successful ventures. Former competitors, their companies had merged into a powerhouse, pushing forward ever more ambitious projects. Check this out, Robbie said one afternoon, scrolling through her phone. Bernard's daughter is engaged to Randy's son. They were even thinking about hosting the wedding at the Whitaker Finnegan. The garden you insisted on restoring? It's now a top-tier venue. Jasper's firm had more than tripled in scale since the scandal broke. Their unique approach, blending heritage preservation with modern luxury, had attracted international interest. Ironically, the betrayal meant to break him had paved the way for his rise. Randolph Ramsey, whose steady commitment during that first Victorian build had earned both loyalty and equity, had taken on the role of COO. His sharp eye and structured mindset became essential as they scaled. Oh, and Randy caught Damon trying to sneak back into the business, Robbie mentioned. He applied to one of our divisions under a fake name, didn't make it past the background check. The legal fallout from the Victorian project had become so renowned, it was now a case study in law school classes. Corey Marr, now a professor, used it as the backbone for his course on bulletproof contracts. Your real victory, he told his students, wasn't the courtroom win. It was the ironclad documentation. Being prepared is the most powerful form of retaliation. In Jasper's new office, the only memento from that turbulent chapter hung on the wall, a framed copy of the original architectural plans. Not a tribute to betrayal, but a reminder of transformation. Melissa's role had evolved too. No longer just a savvy source of social insight, she now led the company's social strategy. Her extensive network became invaluable in screening partners and identifying opportunities. "Want to hear something crazy?" she asked over lunch one day. "Juliet's living in the building we're about to buy. The whole block's part of next year's luxury redevelopment plan." Fate, it seemed, had a wicked sense of irony. The same woman who once tried to destroy Jasper's future was now poised to be displaced by the fruits of his success. Their saga had turned into a sort of blueprint, not because of the drama, but because of how masterfully Jasper turned personal ruin into professional triumph. "It's poetic," Bernard had said during their last board meeting. "They assumed you were too buried in blueprints to notice, but it was that same attention to detail that built all of this." The Whitaker-Finnegan residences had become a symbol of that metamorphosis. With 6 luxury units, each with a waiting list, and property values that had doubled since launch, it stood as a monument to resilience. Jasper and Robbie's penthouse offered a view of both the restored Victorian and the site of their next project, a full city block slated for high-end, mixed-use redevelopment. "People mistake patience for inaction," Robbie remarked, glancing over fresh blueprints, "and precision for being distracted." Jasper checked his phone. Speaking of distractions, Damon's timeshare scam just went belly up. Filed for bankruptcy this morning. Background checks scared off all his investors. The final punctuation came in the form of a glowing article in a major real estate journal. "From Restoration to Revolution: How One Developer Turned Betrayal into a billion-dollar Blueprint." It chronicled how Jasper's experience redefined luxury redevelopment, weaving integrity into every deal. Juliet had tried to add her voice, sending a long-winded email filled with excuses, twisted timelines, and half-hearted apologies. It never made it past the editor. The magazine deliberately left out her perspective, insisting the official records told the entire story. In the span of 5 years, a single act of treachery had given rise to an empire, a flawless blend of classic charm and modern refinement. What many assumed would signal Jasper's downfall had instead become a masterclass in transforming hardship into progress. This wasn't a tale of revenge. It was a study in vision, the kind that sees past betrayal and into a future brimming with opportunity. Jasper's legacy wasn't carved from resentment, but from intelligence, not propelled by anger, but by shrewd, deliberate choices. "Ready for the next one?" Robbie asked, rolling out the plans for their newest project. Jasper scanned the architectural lines and elegant curves, a quiet sense of pride settling across his face. The past had taught him everything that truly mattered. Loyalty was something to be earned, and family wasn't always defined by blood. As it turned out, the sweetest kind of justice wasn't cold. It was profitable. The path ahead gleamed with potential. Each development gave them a fresh opportunity to revive the overlooked and transform it into something remarkable. The betrayal that once ignited his journey had become little more than background noise, eclipsed by the roar of well-earned success. While they examined the latest layout for their next ambitious endeavor, Jasper's phone buzzed with a final message from Melissa. "Damon's timeshare company is closing. He's trying to get hired as a mall security guard. Want to guess which mall? The very one you're demolishing next month to build the new shopping center." Fate, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor. But Jasper wasn't chasing irony. His gaze remained fixed forward, on building legacies, not settling scores. He had learned that the most powerful response to betrayal wasn't revenge. It was imagination. It was transformation. It was victory. As the sun slipped behind the rejuvenated towers of the Whitaker-Finnegan residences, its light bathed the restored Victorian structure in warm gold. The building represented more than a physical revival. It stood as a testament, proof that the most profound restorations aren't just about bricks and mortar. Sometimes they happen within you, and they leave you stronger than ever before. Our story comes to an end here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this story, please check out other videos on this channel. See you soon, my dear friend.